We had a huge victory today. We're all excited, all 26 of our states, and of course Oklahoma and Virginia, who have their independent lawsuits going as well. So there's 28 of us total, and we are very, very pleased with Judge Vinson's ruling.
That is the Attorney General of Florida, Pam Bondi, talking about the signature ruling by Judge Roger Vinson yesterday. We thought that would be a perfect time to check in with Betsy McCaughey, you know, as the former Lieutenant Governor of New York, and her book, Obama Health Law, What It Says and How to Overturn It. Betsy, good morning.
Good morning, and this is an important day for all of us who love the Constitution, and most Americans do. When the House of Representatives reconvened in January, the House Speaker had the Constitution read line by line, and something very similar happened yesterday when Judge Roger Vinson issued his opinion. He went back to the founders, he quoted James Madison, he talked about the principles behind the founding of this nation, and he said this case is not about health care, it's about liberty, it's about limiting the power of government over the individual.
So where do you think the case goes next, legislatively and judicially?
Well, judicially there will be appeals, and the most interesting practical issue here is that the judge did not issue an injunction. He said, look, the court is ruling on what the law says. We expect the executive branch to observe it. We've declared this law null and void. What is the Obama administration going to do in response to this? It'll be very interesting to see. Will they respect the court's opinion? Will they try to move forward with implementing parts of this law anyway? It's hard to say. We'll be watching minute by minute on that. Meanwhile, in the House of Representatives, the majority is determined to starve the beast, to limit the use of funds, taxpayer funds, to implement this law. So every appropriations bill that's going through the legislature will now have attached to it a provision none of this money can be used to implement Obamacare.
You know, I'm glad you brought up the whole question about why the judge did not enjoin the decision, because Mark Levin joined us an hour earlier, and he said as he reads the law, Judge Vinson essentially said this is not necessary, and I'm reading from the decision. He says, as a result, the declaratory judgment is the functional equivalent of an injunction.
That's right. He's saying the federal government, these are respectable folks. We don't have to doubt that they're going to observe the law as declared by the court. But you and I know that things may be very different in Washington. And in fact, every institution has its own instinct for self-preservation and survival, and in this case, it seems as if the judge was backing off a showdown with the administration. An injunction would have been a showdown.
But the states now, if I read this correctly, can say, because of what Judge Vinson said, we can essentially prevent this law from being enacted because we expect executive officers to follow the Constitution.
Yes, we are not going to have any state employees prepare insurance exchanges or expand Medicaid or the many other issues that were imposed on the states.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. What exactly can the states not do now, or turn around, that is a part of this bill now? And can insurance companies do anything differently now that this judge has said it is unconstitutional and therefore it can't go on?
Well, that's right. For example, the states have already been required to change some of their insurance regulations, to regulate premiums where they weren't doing it before, to start spending money setting up these insurance exchanges. They should not be doing that in the future. They should just halt those activities because they are no longer required under the law to do that. And similarly with insurance companies.
All right, so even though insurance companies weren't a part of this lawsuit, they still can say, hey, the judge ruled in this case that this law is unconstitutional, therefore, hey, we're out of here, we're not going to adhere by it.
Well, that's right, and that's why it's very interesting to see what happens next, because already you hear words from the White House such as, well, we'll see what happens. They're not about to halt their implementation of this law.
Let me ask you about the pressure on Harry Reid, who has put his head down and said, I'm not going to allow this to even come up for a vote. Do you think the pressure now is on him to an even greater degree to at least have an up or down on Obamacare, seeing as how, we've now got what looks to be an expedited path to the Supreme Court with a judge ruling that the whole bill is unconstitutional, not just
the... That's a very perceptive point on your part. And in fact, Harry Reid should allow that repeal bill to come to the floor because every single member of Congress has taken an oath to uphold the Constitution, and a federal judge has just said this law, the Obama health law, is unconstitutional.
Yeah, there are politics behind it, though. We all know that. All right, let me ask you this, Betsy. Do you think then the Supreme Court will hear this case sooner rather than later? By that, I mean, do you think it's going to happen this year because of this ruling yesterday?
That's hard to say, but clearly there will be a decision before the presidential election. Before, a lot of people thought maybe that wouldn't happen, but now it really has to happen.
All right, and then, so that begs the next question. Do you think Anthony Kennedy will be the swing vote, and which way will he go? I'm not going to let you off the hook.
I thought you were booking a fortune teller.
Well, I assume you're flipping a coin as we speak.
Right, that's right. That's what it is. It's a coin flip. But what's very exciting about Judge Vinson's decision, and I would encourage anyone to read it. You can come up on our website, defendyourhealthcare.us, or many other places and find it, is that he goes right back to the founders. He walks us through the Federalist Papers. He even goes back to the Boston Tea Party and says, do you really think these American rebels were going through all this and then they were going to capitulate to a government that forced them to buy tea or forced them to buy health insurance? So he really goes back to the principles on which this nation was founded.
All right, Betsy. Great to have you on the show as always. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, Betsy.
Betsy McCaughey, former Lieutenant Governor of the state of New York, also author of Obama Health Law, What It Says and How to Overturn It.
I think Judge Vincent read that book before he made his decision. It almost sounds
you
like
never know.